Hey guys, welcome back. We are going to be starting a new series. When I said we were going to be getting heavy, even heavier after that Megadeth album review series and ranking, I meant it. We're talking about Cannibal Corpse today, and of course, we're talking about that 1990 debut, Eaten Back to Life. Really gnarly looking album cover here, as we're going to find with all of their albums, really, right? But yeah, we've covered Death on here. We've covered Carcass. So I'm like, hey, let's get into some more death metal with Cannibal Corpse, one of the all-time greats, one of the more known death metal bands out there. Period. I mean, they had the big showing in in Ace Ventura and everything. It kind of helped their popularity even more back in the '90s and everything. But this is before that even, right? This is their debut. And we kick things off. We'll just jump right on into it with Shredded Humans, and these are going to be some wild titles too. Just like we saw with especially like Carcass has some really crazy song titles and gory song titles, and that's what we're going to get with Cannibal Corpse all throughout. If you're not familiar with them, so buckle up for sure. But yeah, Shredded Humans opens it up, and what a way to introduce the world to Cannibal Corpse, right? Just a 5 minute and some change track that just has time changes, blast beats, the rough, just growly vocals of Chris Barnes, just incredible stuff. It is one of the best ones off here right off the bat. This is how you say, hey, here we are. We're gonna give you, you pick this off the CD rack, you pop it in, you're listening to Shredded Humans, and it's an amazing track off here. And I love the time changes and stuff on here. That's the kind of thing, especially, death metal is not for everybody. But if some people can even, get past some of the vocals sometimes, which, I mean, I don't have to, I love that stuff, right? But there is a lot of technical stuff going on behind that, right? And you hear that a lot here on Shredded Humans. Then, of course, track number 2, Edible Autopsy, another favorite of mine. The drumming on here is just phenomenal. It is just blast beat city on this track. And I really, that's another one that is just, an introductory track to the band. It's a 1-2 shot here with these two, with Edible Autopsy being yet another one of my favorites off here. Then we kind of get to a quick, like, I think 1 minute and 50 seconds, something like that, track with Put Them to Death. But what a 1 minute and 50 seconds it is, right? I mean, I love the bass work going on this one, a really thick bass tone. And it just kind of is an explosive, I wouldn't even call it like an interlude or anything, right? Because I mean, it's a song, not just a couple seconds or whatever. It's a song. It's just a short one, but it makes its statement rather quick, but in an effective way. So that's Put Them to Death. Then here is probably, I think it's safe to say this one is my favorite. Track number 4, Mangled, and it's always been one of my favorites off here. The speed of this one as it grows, it just like it keeps pumping and getting crazier and crazier with the speed. And I love kind of the chanting, of the background kind of chanting of Mangled. Love this one. Always been one of my favorites. One of my favorite Cannibal Corpse tracks of all time is Mangled. Then we go with track number 5, Scattered Remains, Splattered Brains. Another badass sounding title, right? And a really good track here as well. One that is, I feel like I hear that one talked about a lot off here, as a highlight off here, and I definitely agree. I mean, it is a massive highlight off, an album full of greats, right? And Scattered Remains, Splattered Brains, awesome track. Yet again, one that's got some funky kind of time changes and stuff like that, and just a really cool sound going on. Track number 6, we're going with Born in a Casket. Probably my second or third favorite off here. Love this one. The brutality of this track, the riff on this one is just a monster. And this has also been one of those that has always been a major go back to, track from this record, is Born in a Casket. Then we go with track number 7, Rotting Head. And this is a really fun one too. Another kind of a shorter one. I do, you know, you're gonna find off here. You know, I'll just be straight up. There's not a bad song off here, right? But maybe if you got a gun to my head and are saying pick your least favorite, maybe it's Rotting Head. But I don't know. Maybe it's kind of down there, in that territory, right? But I do like this one a lot. It's really cool. Then we go with The Undead Will Feast as track number 8. And this is a badass one. I really like, just the kind of visceral nature of this one, which, really you could be saying that for the whole record, right? But that's just kind of, the word to describe this song for me. I really, really like The Undead Will Feast. Then the other one, track number 9, if it's anything that's kind of, again, in that bottom kind of area, even though I love even the worst off here, if you want to call it that. Track number 9, Bloody Chunks. That might be my least favorite off here. But it's either that or Rotting Head, but I do really like both of those. It's just, if I'm going to sit here and pick something of the bunch here, those would probably be down kind of in the more bottom area. But I do really like Bloody Chunks. It's a blast of a track. And then this one right here, probably in like the top maybe 4 or 5 tracks for me. Track number 10, A Skull Full of Maggots. This one kind of has brings back that little bit of kind of chanting type vibe going on that Mangle kind of has, with, screaming maggots, and just describing, how they're eating the skull, right? And all over. And I really like this one. That's always been a big favorite of mine. I really like whenever, I think that really works on this album when they kind of do, or just going and going and going, and you kind of hear just like Mangled and just like Skull Full of Maggots, just that kind of background kind of vocal, hollering back at you, right? And then we end it with track number 11, which, man, this one might be probably my second favorite, possibly. It's like this is up in that top 3 area as well, Buried in the Backyard. The time changes on this one are wild. You're thinking, the first bit of this track, you're like, is this an instrumental, right? The first time, if you ever, or, first time listening to this, you're like, man, this, you're just hearing just some technical stuff going on really fast, almost like a thrash instrumental. But then things do a big shift on you, and then we kick in with the vocals, and you get Chris Barnes screaming at you again. And it's just such a cool song. Gotta be in the top 3 for me off this album, Buried in the Backyard, and a perfect way to wrap up a death metal debut, and an iconic one at that. Eaten Back to Life is one of the all-time great death metal albums, and you talk about some of those biggest bands. Again, we've covered Death and Carcass, 2 of my favorite death metal bands of all time. Cannibal Corpse is right up in that area with them, so I'm super stoked to be delving into their discography again and revisiting all these records. So, and what a way to kick it back off. This one just, and again, if you've never really listened to these guys and are wanting to kind of follow along, it's maybe your thing, may not be really heavy stuff. But if you're along for the ride, buckle up, because it's just some heavy hitting stuff here. But Eaten Back to Life, what a way to start it off. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this thing down below. What your thoughts were the first time you ever heard this album. Because I know for me, I was like, whoa. I had listened to Death before I had ever listened to Cannibal Corpse. And, obviously Death are heavy in their own right. They're death metal, pure death metal, right? But this type of vocal is even harsher and everything than I would say maybe Chuck's is, even more, of a guttural kind of growl, and it just can kind of, can be jarring to you, right? And then, but to me, I gave it a listener, and it hooks you, and that's kind of my experience with this one here. So I'd love to hear your guys' kind of experience with Eaten Back to Life by Cannibal Corpse, and stay tuned, because next time, of course, we're going to be looking at their second album, another crazy title, Butchered at Birth. So stay tuned for that one as we take a journey into this crazy wild ride of Cannibal Corpse discography. Like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks, guys.